I have a question for President Barack Obama and Attorney General Eric Holder. Several years ago, President Obama said that Trayvon Martin could have been his son. However, a few years later, just recently, Attorney General Eric Holder decided to not pursue charges against George Zimmerman. Now, if Trayvon Martin could have been your son, are you satisfied with the results of this case? And are you satisfied with the outcome of this case? Do you believe that justice was served? And do you believe that the legal process worked the way it was supposed to? Because I look at this case and you know what? There's a lot of hypocrisy here. Um, Mr. Obama said one thing and then he did another. And I truly believe if it was Sasha or Malia killed by George Zimmerman, it would have been a different story. Um, what happened with this case, I look at it, is I look at it and I see, a precedent being set, a precedent being set by a black man on black men. Here we have our first black president and our first black attorney general making a legal precedent similar to Plessy versus Ferguson. And in this precedent, they're basically saying a black man's life doesn't matter. And here we have the most powerful black man in the United States with the power, to make a statement about race and race relations. And here he is, he sides with the status quo, he sides with white supremacy, and he makes a statement, that a black man's life does not matter in America. So this is a statement, it is now the law of the land, a statement set in stone by our Attorney General, our black male Attorney General, and our black male President. So basically, they are making the statement that a black man's life does not matter. And again, what's most disturbing, about this is that again, it's a black man making this statement, not a white man, not a Hispanic man, not an Asian man. We have two black men who are prominent, making a statement about, the value of a black male life. And from the outhouse to the White House, black male lives don't matter, not to other people, but to black people, black men themselves. And I've always looked at, this Black Lives Matter thing and, people carrying that sign. And the big problem is the people carrying the signs don't value the lives of black men, not other people. And what they're trying to do is convince others that a black man's life matters, when it's the problem is that black men have to convince themselves that their life matters. And, I look at the overall picture of race in America, especially when it comes to black men. We're not making the statement that our lives matter. And we're not making that statement through our actions. Just like, Attorney General Eric Holder made the statement that a black man's life doesn't matter. Here we have a black man who is one of the most powerful attorneys, runs the Department of Justice, has the power to show the value of a black man's life to the world. And instead of making that statement to stand up for black men, he sides with white supremacy. Same thing with our president who said, you know, Trayvon Martin could have been my son. Again, he gave, when it came down to Michael Brown and Eric Garner, he gave some half-hearted speeches. Again, a black man's life did not matter to the most powerful black men in the world. And this is the big problem, with all of our marching and protesting. Again, when I look at our movements, for black men, the black men are not taking the lead in their own lives. When I look at cases like Eric Garner and Michael Brown, you either have immature men like Michael Brown's stepfather speaking, or you have black women, in the case of Eric Garner, making statements. You don't see black men coming to the forefront of their own movement. You don't see black men taking the lead in their own movement. Mostly what we see is everybody else telling us a black man's life matter, but we're not having black men themselves. Now, we had Eric Holder and Barack Obama with an opportunity to say that a black man's life mattered by, going after these guys with federal civil rights charges, that even if they lost, it would have still made a more powerful statement, about how much they valued a black man's life. But by them not doing anything, they were basically saying to the world, sending the message that a black man's life did not matter, and that this now is the legal precedent, the law of the land, similar to your Plessy versus Ferguson, which stated that things could be separate and equal. And again, the big problem is us. I look at the whole race issue in America, and the problem is that black people do not value themselves, and especially black men do not value themselves. This is why we have so much black on black crime. This is why we have black men killing each other with the indifference a person would use to kill a roach. Um, this is why black people are always constantly shooting each other and killing each other, because black men do not value themselves. They do not have a sense of self worth. They do not believe their lives matter. They do not believe anything in their lives matters. Because it shows through their actions. If black men valued their lives, they would be trying to build their communities up. They wouldn't be, standing outside of some foreigner store begging for change. When I look at black men, we're the problem. And our problem is we don't value ourselves, we don't value anything that we do, and we don't value, anything in the world. And that's a big problem. When I look at our black president, our black male president, and our black attorney general making that statement by not pursuing, George Zimmerman or what's his name again, Darren Wilson, they're basically saying that a black man's life doesn't matter. They've made, this the law of the land. They've officially made this statement, and it's really condemning because it's not coming from white people this time. It's coming from a black man and two black men. The two most prominent black men in the United States are making the statement that a black man's life does not matter, and most in the black community are just sitting there apathetic, indifferent, and they're just like the black people in Jim Crow. Because I've read about them quite a bit. After the black man was lynched, they just went back to business as usual. Oh, Leroy's dead, he's buried, that's it. Just go back to business as usual. And this apathy and indifference, shows us how not much has changed, even with the black president who promised us, change. And when we look at, the Obama legacy, when it comes to black people, he did give us change, a change back to Jim Crow, um, especially for black men. And his indifference, to black life, black male life, is just as bad as a white supremacist. And I look at, a lot of our black men, like our gang members and our thugs, and our dope dealers, and they're just like your white supremacists. They participate in the same behavior as a white supremacist. And that's the big problem. Our black men don't value their lives. They value white supremacy. Again, I have said this many times. Many black people, especially black men, participate in white supremacy like a religion. In black communities, white supremacy is bigger than Jesus. Um, and this is the religion that black people participate in. And when I look at our president, again, he made a powerful statement, and his attorney general made a powerful statement, and it's a historical statement as I see it. When it comes down to black men, and it's time again, as I see it, for black men to not take arms, but take action, and show that their lives matter through constructive process. Building up your own community, taking care of business, being a part of a family, being fathers to your children, um, participating in group economics, trying to build black businesses. This is how you show that your life matters. Building we have to build something to show that our lives matter. Because if we show that our lives matter, the rest to ourselves, the rest of the world will see how valuable we are. The big problem with us is that we keep waiting for other people to see that we matter instead of proving to ourselves that we matter to ourselves. And that's, as the way I see it, is the most important thing. Because if you see yourself as valuable, others will see you as valuable. But the big problem is black men are still waiting for black women to see them as valuable. They're waiting for white men to see them as valuable. And this is giving your power away. And when you give your power away, you're letting other people control the terms of your existence. And this is the big problem with black men, is that we're letting other people tell us who we are instead of us telling ourselves who we are. And this is why, your black male life doesn't matter, because he doesn't see its value. He doesn't see, his value as a man. He doesn't see his worth as a man. He doesn't see, you know, what makes him special as a man. And the whole thing is that God made every man, and he made the black man to be special for it in his own special way. But the black man does not see his own value. He keeps seeing himself through a white lens, and he keeps seeing himself, the way white people see him. And that's not the way we are. We have to, again, define who we are and define our image, and define what our black what and make a black life matter to us. I know I keep repeating that, but I want you to get that. A black man's life has to matter to him. He has to put himself first, and when you put yourself first, you start to see what makes you valuable. You start to see your own worth as a man, and you start to see what matters to you. And the big problem with black men is we don't do that. We don't define ourselves. We've allowed everybody else to define us, allowed everybody else to tell our story. But we haven't come in and said, this is who we are as black men. This is what our community is about. This is the way we want to shape our community. This is what we want to do with our lives. And we're not taking the lead. And I look at the cases, of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and Eric Garner, and I see that the problem isn't just that they were killed by non-black people, it's that the black people didn't value them enough to, black men did not value them enough to stand up and fight for their cause, because this was our cause. We were supposed to come up and speak out on their behalf. I mean, if a black man's life matters, the black man needs to be at the forefront. He needs to be the leader of his own cause. He needs to be the leader of his own issues, and he needs to speak for himself. And we're not seeing that. All we're seeing today, through the actions of black men, from our black president and our black attorney general, all the way down to the most violent thug on the street, is black men's lives have no value to black men. And again, you can easily kill a black man, as indifferently as you would kill a roach, because black men are the ones who would indifferently kill each other as roaches, but then get upset when a non-black person does it. In order to make the other people stop, we have to stop it. We have to stop the Pookies, the Ray Rays, and the Jahims in the same way we would go after the George Zimmermans and the Darren Wilsons and the Officer Panaleos. We have to go after all of them in the exact same way, with the exact same approach. When these gang members come to your community, you should be marching and protesting them. When the drug dealer comes to your community, you should be marching and protesting them with the same passion and the same fervor that you would, that white cop. And that's something we don't do. Because if everything is supposed to be equal, we have to equally go after those who harm those black people who harm black people, in the same way we go after the white people who harm black people, because they're both practicing white supremacy. They're both practicing racism against black people, and they're both oppressing people. Because I don't care what anyone says, your gang member and your dope dealer is just as big a terrorist and a white supremacist as your Ku Klux Klansman. Exact same person, just a different color. He may be wearing sagging pants, but he's the same type of terrorist, trying to bully and intimidate and harass people for economic reasons. The same thing the Ku Klux Klan did. And we have to fight them both. And anybody who is against anybody who's about oppressing the black community is just, as I see it, a terrorist. I mean, they're no different than your ISIL or your Al Qaeda or your PLO. And black people need to start seeing these gang members and these thugs and these dope dealers in the exact same way. And that's the only way you're going to make a black life matter, is if you fight to protect the black community from the menace, all the menaces in the black community, not just the white ones. And when I look at, the precedent that was set, it's time for a change, and the change has to come from within the black community. We're the ones who are going to have to take action. We cannot expect government to do for us what we can do for ourselves. And most of this stuff we're going to have to do for ourselves. We're going to have to look out for our own community. And, if you want to protect your community from these type of menaces, I mean, if we're protecting our own community, we won't have to deal with a Darren Wilson or a George Zimmerman. We'll be doing it. And that way we can prevent other boys like Trayvon Martin from being murdered. But a lot of black people don't want to take that type of constructive action. They just keep waiting for somebody else to do it for them. And that's never how anything has been done in this country. People have always taken up action and they've always made the changes themselves. And, black people, I think they got comfortable. They elected Barack Obama and they thought change was just going to come easy, but they don't understand that change is hard. And I, as a guy who was forced to change his life, when he was 16, I know that change is hard. And it means you can't go back to what you used to do. It means you're going to have to come out and do something different. And I believe it's time for black people to start, doing something different when it comes to the issues of race and race relations, because the approaches of the 1960s just don't work anymore. The approaches of the 1960s, the marching and the protesting we see with the case of Michael Brown and the case of Trayvon Martin, all that stuff really did nothing, because George Zimmerman is free, Darren Wilson is free, and both of these men are as dead as any other lynching victim from Jim Crow, and they're just as, you know, George Zimmerman and Darren Wilson are still, like the men who killed Emmett Till. They're free to go, and these men are dead, and black people are just still sitting here as indifferent as they were when that lynching victim was killed. They are just sitting there, getting ready to take their tax dollars and go shopping for Air Jordan tennis shoes, go shopping for rims, go shopping for tires, and many of these same brothers who said that, holding up the Black Lives Matter sign are getting ready to go simp and trick with these females and, get themselves in dangerous situations where they may or may not possibly be killed, fighting over them in the summertime, because that's what they're going to do with their tax refund money. And that course of action, is not going to work. And what's going to happen is we're going to have another vicious cycle, just like we had, I think, a couple of days ago, where this young man was killed by another white police officer. And, it just keeps happening again and again. And we keep participating, we keep doing the exact same things and expecting a different result. Again, as I've said in numerous videos, it's time for a new course of action. And we really have to take that new course of action as black people. We cannot continue to expect others to do for us when we have to do for ourselves and take care of our own communities and take care of our own kids, because we're the only ones who can protect them and support them and, help them deal with the world that's around them. The only person, again, who can show a black man's life matters is another black man. And if Barack Obama won't do it, then Shawn James will show that a black man's life matters. And I urge other men to go out and show that a black man's life matters, because you show that, again, through your actions, not your words. And you show that through what you do, not what you say. And the way I see it, we need more black men to show through their actions that a black man's life matters, because he's showing that his life matters to him. And when he shows that his life matters to him, others will see its value too. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.